Shalom and welcome to this episode of Reboot the Root. In this episode of Reboot the Root, we're going to be talking about a common thing that is observed by many of us who are in Hebrew roots or Netzarim or Messianic Judaism, and that is the thing of wearing Tzit Tzits. And Tzit Tzits can also be known as fringes or tassels. So if we are in a Hebrew roots or Messianic Torah observant congregation, some of us wear the Tzit Tzits and some of us do not. So we're going to take a look at this teaching about what it is to wear Tzit Tzits. And so a lot of people who come as new to Torah in this walk, they want to know of what is this thing about Tzit Tzits and how can I get them and how can I make them. So I've come across various people in conversations that want to know how do I make them and what they're about. So we're going to talk about what is Tzit Tzits. So the definition of Tzit Tzits are fringes or tassels worn on traditional or ceremonial garments by Jewish males as reminders of the commandments contained in Deuteronomy chapter 22 and Numbers chapter 15. And I will add to this definition that comes from Merriam-Webster dictionary to say that this doesn't apply to just ceremonial or traditional garments, but it applies to our everyday garments as well. And they're not worn just by males, but they are worn by the children of Israel, which will include males, women, and children. So Tzit Tzits also comes from a popular etymological interpretation, which comes from this word called nitzah, which means a budding flower. A budding flower. So Tzit Tzits is connected closely with this Hebrew word nitzah, a budding flower. So when we look in the Torah commands, we see that making and wearing Tzit Tzits together is actually called a mitzvah. And mitzvah is a Hebrew word meaning commandment. So if you've studied Hebrew at any length of time, or maybe you're new to studying Hebrew, you'll know that there are two forms of pluralism, that is, that makes a Hebrew word plural, and that will be ot and im. One is female and one is male. And so when we add ot onto mitzvah, we get commandments. So mitzvah is singular, where mitzvot is plural. So backing up here, we can see that making and wearing Tzit Tzits is a mitzvah, a commandment. So Tzit Tzits can also be called fringes or tassels. And when we look at when they were initiated to wear, we see that they were given part of the Mosaic law at Mount Sinai that Moses taught the children of Israel to obey by wearing the Tzit Tzits. And so we have this some 3,500 years of Hebraic custom and Hebraic law of wearing the Tzit Tzits. And so this stems from the Mosaic law that we have, and this Mosaic law of wearing the Tzit Tzits comes from the books of Deuteronomy and Numbers. So 35 years of Hebraic custom. That's a long time to be observing wearing Tzit Tzits, won't you agree? So Tzit Tzits are worn by both men and women, like I said before, because they constitute the children of Israel. And so the men and the women, being children of Israel, would also include children that would understand why they're keeping this mitzvah. And so when we look in the book of Numbers and Deuteronomy, we see that this is indeed a commandment in the Torah. We are commanded to make these and to wear them. And so a lot of people may end up just buying the Tzit Tzits off a Judaic website or having someone else make them for them. what we're actually really commanded to really make our own for ourselves. So that's the purpose of this teaching, is so that you can understand that you are to make your own, and then we'll show you how to make simple Tzit Tzits. Now, how I'm going to show you how to make them is very, very simple, that most anybody can do. And yes, there are more elaborate designs and patterns that you can make with them, but we're going to keep it simple because this is designed for people who are new to Torah. They want to get rebooted in the process of getting back to the Hebraic identity, and so we're just going to keep it simple. So we are commanded to make our own, and we wear them on the four corners of our garments, and these are worn by Jews, Messianics, those in Hebrew roots, those who are Torah observant, and the Netzarim. So, like I said before, many Judaic sites will sell the Tzit Tzits, but we are really commanded to make our own. And in a moment here, we are going to look at the verse that shows this, that we are indeed supposed to make our own. So there's this mitzvah in the book of Numbers that we are to make our own Tzit Tzits. In fact, quoting from the scriptures in the King James Version, it says, "They make them fringes." This is a very declarative commandment, that they make them fringes, that we don't go and buy them from other people. We don't have other people make them for us, but we make them for ourselves. Because when we make them for ourselves, we are owning the commandments for ourselves. We are taking the responsibility upon ourselves to keep the commandment, and we're not asking someone else to help us keep the commandments we're supposed to do. So we're making this special spiritual connection to this mitzvah of wearing the Tzit Tzits. The Tzit Tzits remind us to keep God's mitzvot. And so we have all these different hundreds of commandments that God has put forth to us in His Torah to keep, and the Tzit Tzits' purpose is to remind us to keep those commandments. And so, like I said before, mitzvah is a commandment, and it is singular, and mitzvot is commandments, which is plural. In Deuteronomy 22:12, we see that it says, "Thou shalt make thee fringes upon the four quarters of thy vesture, wherewith thou covereth thyself." And we see here we have a picture of a person, actually it's me, wearing their Tzit Tzits. And so this is on two of the corners. And one thing we have to be careful is that we don't have a pharisaical spirit about us in the length that we're wearing them. In other words, what is our heart's desire? What's our heart's intent to wear the Tzit Tzits? Are these to show how spiritual and how religious and how holy we are? Or are we wearing them because we want to be closer to Yahweh and we want to keep His commandments? So it is very important that we wear them in the right spirit, and not to have a pharisaical spirit. So in Numbers 15, chapter 15 that is, it says, "Speak unto the children of Yisrael, and bid them that they may make them fringes in the borders of their garments." So here we see here that it says that they make them. Okay, so they make them fringes in the borders of their garments throughout their generations, and that they put upon the fringe of the borders a ribbon of blue. So the only constructive requirement of these Tzit Tzits is that it has a ribbon of blue. And when I show you here in a few moments about how we make them, you'll see that that's what we're doing. We are incorporating a ribbon of blue in our Tzit Tzits. "And it shall be upon you for a fringe, that you may look upon it." So here we have the purpose of why do we wear the Tzit Tzits. We are supposed to look upon them and remember all the commandments of the Lord and do them. So we are looking upon these fringes, and we are being reminded to keep the commandments. And it says, "And that ye seek not after your own heart and your own eyes." So when we're wearing the tzitzis, we are reminded to not just do the commandments of Yahweh, but we're remembering ourselves not to do our own pleasures, to go after our own heart, follow our own heart and our own desires, because isn't this the reason why we were so attracted to the Torah to begin with? Is because it is a way of instruction for us. It lights our path and it's a lamp unto our feet. And so we need to use God's word to direct our paths instead of us directing our paths. And that's where we get into our mistakes, and that's where we fall away, is because we decide to do things in our own way. And that's why we just end up really deciding, coming to the conclusion that our way is not the best way. And so concluding here in this passage in Numbers 15, it says, after which you used to go a-whoring, that you remember and do all my commandments and be holy unto your God. So this part about whoring is what I want to focus on here, is that whoring, when we start following the ways after the world, we start following the ways after other gods, we start following our own ways, we are giving ourselves away to other gods, we're giving ourselves to other things that are not of God. And so that's what we're talking about here, is that we're whoring after other ways that are not about God. So the tzitzis are a spiritual connection between us and Yahweh to be able to get back to his ways. As I said before, the only constructive requirement of the tzitzis is that it has a blue cord in it. And so when we look at the Hebrew word techelet, that is the Hebrew word for blue. So we're putting a techelet ribbon inside of the construction of our tzitzis. If you run across Jewish circles or people who are Jewish, you'll find that they do not share the same value of women wearing tzitzis as Messianics do. In Messianic circles, we are proud to encourage everyone that is considered a child of Israel to wear them. And so, but you will run into some Orthodox Messianic groups that don't encourage women to wear the tzitzis because they feel that anything that has to do with time is not applicable to women. But in Messianic and Hebrew circles, we do not feel this way. But again, you will find the exception to this. So when we look at the word children of Israel, it means exactly that. It's men, women, and children. Everyone who has been grafted into Israel and consider themselves to be the seed of Abraham, they are considered the children of Israel, and they can wear the tzitzis. And so finally, before we get into how to make the tzitzis, let's take a part of the Numbers 15 verse and look at and remember why we are keeping this commandment to wear the tzitzis. And it says, remember all the commandments of the Lord and do them, and that you seek not after your own heart and your own eyes, after which you used to go a-whoring. So I want to encourage you to wear your tzitzis, not wear them just only at your community gatherings, but wear them at work, wear them at your house, wear them around the house, wear them going to the store and doing whatever you do. They're to be worn all the time. Okay, so for us to make the tzitzis, the tassels, or the fringes, we're going to need a few things. We are going to need, first of all, we're going to need a ruler because we're going to have to measure out the length of our string. We're going to need some scissors, some white string, a twine of white string that is, because you're probably going to want to make a bunch of them at the same time, because when you are wearing them on your garments, they're going to get dirty and they're going to get kind of torn up in the laundry. So you're going to want to make yourself multiple sets. And then you're going to need a twine of blue string. And so if we look at the commandment in the book of Numbers that talks about how we are to make the tzitzis, it says that we're supposed to include a string or a cord of blue in it. So you'll find that in Messianic circles that many people have different variations on of the Tzit Tzits, but they all include a cord of blue in it. So to get started, we're going to want to take our string, and then we're going to want to measure out 3 feet, and we're going to make 4 of these. So we want to use our ruler here, and we're going to measure out 4 feet. So there's 1, there's 2, there's 3. And correction, I meant 3 feet. 3 feet on the white and 4 feet on the blue. So we're going to cut ourselves our first one, and then we're going to use it to be our template to measure all of the rest of them. So let's measure out 4 of these lengths of 3 feet of white. And so we want to make them as close in length, equal in length that is, as much as possible. And what we're going to be doing is we're probably going to shorten these anyway. So if you travel around to different congregations or watch different people who are in Hebrew roots or Messianic, you'll see that they all tend to have different lengths. So my personal opinion is that you don't want to keep them too long, because we don't want to have a pharisaical spirit where we're causing people to look at our Tzit Tzits in a pharisaical way, meaning having pride, saying, look at us, look at how holy we are with our Tzit Tzits. So you see here we have the 4 of these lengths of 3 feet length of white twine. So we're going to set those right there, and then we're going to get out the blue cord. See, here's my blue, and we're going to measure off 1 of these, not 4 of them, but 1. We're going to measure off 4 feet. So we take our ruler once again, and we measure off 1, 2, 3, and 4. There's 4 feet. Now when we make the Tzit Tzits, we're going to make, it's traditional, not commanded in the Torah, but it's traditional that the blue cord will hang longer than the white cord. So if you see here, if you can see this, we're going to double up on it like this, and it's going to that's going to be your basis, and then we double, and we see how the blue is going to hang a little bit more longer than the white. So there we have our lengths. They're pre-cut, and we're going to do these 4 times. Okay? So what I've done ahead of time is I make up pre-packaged kits throughout the year that I can use them, and if I go to Sukkot or different gatherings and people want to know how to make them, I already have this already. This is 4 sections of the white. These are for 4 Tzit Tzits, and then I have the blue already cut. So I have the section of the white and the blue, and then I put them all in a bag here, and they're already pre-cut, ready to go to share with people at Sukkot or any other kind of gathering I go to that want to know how to make the Tzit Tzits. So the next part we're going to go on to is we're going to move on to actually make the Tzit Tzits. So to make the Tzit Tzits, I tend to like to use this kind of chair right here, where it's got something I can put a loop through, and you're going to see why we're going to want to do that. So find yourself some kind of a place where you can run a string through here, because it's going to be easier for you. So I want to get out my blue cord here, and that, remember, that is 4 feet in length. Okay, there's our blue cord, and then we're going to get out from my backup supply here, we're going to get out 4 of the white strings. So there is 1. There is 2. Oops, 1 dropped. Okay, there's 2. Here is a 3rd one. And now we need 1 more. So there we got the 4. And then we're going to get out the blue cord, and we're going to put it together with the white cords. Now, nowhere in the Torah does it say it has to be white, but that's typically what we use. So now if you see, I got the white and the blue together, and if you look at here at the bottom, the blue hangs longer than the white, like I said before, and so the blue stands out amongst the white. So we're going to take our loop like we did before, but now our blue cord is in there. See the blue cord? And we're going to create the loop here on the chair, and we're going to pass it through the loop just like that. Okay, so now you see there that we got this loop right here. Okay, so like I said before, to tie it off, we're going to separate it, and we're going to tie a knot. Okay, see how that is right there? And so we'll try and get a little bit closer picture here for you about the knot. Now we're going to tie the first knot, and so you see right here we separate the two string, we divide the whole string concoction into a left and a right, and then we are tying a knot, and actually we're tying 2. Okay, there we go. So now what we're going to do is, because the blue is the prominent factor here in the tzitzi, we're going to find and separate the blue cord. See right there? We got the blue cord on the right, okay, and the white on the left. We're going to take the blue and we're going to make a design with it. And so the one I like to use is Yod He Vav He. It spells out the name of Yahweh. Okay? And so we have to know the gematria, or the numerology, not numerology, but the number system of the Hebrew letters. So Yod is 10, He is 5, Vav is 6, and then we spell out another He, which is 5. So the pattern is going to be 10, 5, 6, and 5. So the first one we're going to do is we're taking the 2 cords of blue, and we're going to wrap it around 10 times. So there we have 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. And so you see we have the 10 there, and then we're going to push it up there. And then we're going to make another knot. So we separate the strings in half, and we're going to tie off a knot. And I like to use 2 knots. Okay? So that is the Yod. And now it's time to spell the He. And so you remember me telling you, we've spelled Yod, which is 10, so the He, which is the next letter in the tetragram of Yahweh, we are going to do 5. And so that stands for the letter He. So we got 2, 3, 4, and 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Okay, so we push that up, and then we're going to tie 2 more knots. Okay, so there's our first knot, and there is our second knot. Now we're going to spell the vav, or the wav. And so you separate the white cord from the blue cord, and we're going to wrap the blue around, and we're going to do 6 this time. So there is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6. And it's important that you count it out, because we don't want to misspell the name of Yahweh. Is if we wrap it the wrong way, we won't be spelling Yahweh's name. So this is important to pay attention to. So we push the blue up again, and we're going to do another knot. Actually 2 knots. There's 1 and there is 2. Now that we have the yod and we have the hey and we have the vav, now we've got to do the hey again. So we're going to take the blue cord and we're going to separate from the white cord. There we go. See, blue on the right, white on the left, and then we're going to wrap it again 5 more times. So we got 1. So there we go. 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. So we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. We're going to push that up, and then we're going to tie that off that knot again. So there's 1 knot, and there's 2 knots. Now we're going to, now that let's zoom in a little bit closer, and you can see what we have here. You see, we have our loop right here. We have our loop right here, and we have the yod. We have the yod, and we have the hey, and we have the vav, and we have the hey. And so we have completed this, and you see that, let's zoom out a little bit to show you how much extra we have here. So you can see that we have all this extra hanging off. So we're going to cut that. So depending on what your desire is, some people like to wear them short and some people like to wear them long. So I'm going to kind of cut it to like right here. Okay? And if we measure that, just to kind of give you an idea, we have got about 4.5 inches right there. That's kind of like the way I like to wear mine. Maybe a little bit longer, it just depends. So when we're done making all 4 tzitzis, after we've repeated the process of making them, you should come up with 4 sets of tzitzis. So we have 1, 2, 3, and 4. So our 4 tzitzis that we can now put on the 4 corners of our garments. And so now we have completed the commandment to make our own tzitzis and put them on the 4 corners of our garments. So hopefully this has been very helpful to you to know how to make your own tzitzis. And like I said before, there's lots of patterns you can make. The Torah doesn't tell us what pattern to make. And there are a lot of people who make their own patterns and styles of tzitzis, but they all must include the blue cord. And so go wear your tzitzis. Wear them at your workplace. Wear them at your places of worship. Wear them around the house. Wear them while you're doing work. Wear them all, because wearing the tzitzis will remind you to keep the commandments of Yahweh. we go.